Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, we got a little bit of news to go over, some breaking news here. Last night there was a mass shooting. One deceased so far, 4 or 5 injured. We're going to start off with that and just kind of post a little bit of the reality about what's going on in that region. We're going to talk about a judge, and this is kind of the stuff as well that's kind of promoting this, how she just decided to throw out an illegal loaded firearm because she thought it was racial profiling. Lots of silliness. Just a little bit more about where your tax dollars are going, some fire updates. It's actually kind of been a fairly basic newscast other than the breaking news here about the shooting. And the 2 they did find hiding in BC that are part of a extremist organization that actually has ties to the Palestinians. Yeah, it runs deep in Canada. Let's get started with the breaking news.
Breaking news this hour. A man is dead. Several other people are injured following a shooting in North York, just south of Yorkdale Mall. The incident happened in a residential area near Allen Road. CP24's Melissa Duggan has the latest from the scene. And Melissa, you spoke with the deputy mayor live on CP24. What are people in the area saying? I have friends who live on Rainy, and they're messaging me right now wondering what the heck is going on.
Oh, and we're talking to a lot of people right now, Phil, coming out here, seeing this police activity, asking what is happening in our community right now. As you mentioned, we did talk with City Councillor Mike Cole, expressing his concern about this. He wants to know what's happening as well. My colleague at CTV talking to a witness who says they heard somewhere around 20 shots being fired. Still waiting for confirmation from police on pretty much everything at this point. They are confirming, though, that one male has been killed in this. At least 5 other people have been hurt. Their injuries sustained through gunshot wounds, according to police, are considered non-life-threatening at this time. I want to give you kind of an indication where I am right now, though. The last time I was talking to you, we were far away on this side, kind of around the block in the back of this building. That was taped off with police tape. We walked around the block. There's police tape covering the sides of cars, so you can't go along the sidewalk in this area very far. Then we rounded the block, and that's bringing us here right now. This is Rainy at Flemington, and all the way down Rainy over here, you can see this police closure as part of this investigation. We understand it is an extensive scene that spans below the underpass area here. Exactly where the shots were fired isn't immediately clear at this time. A very fluid situation. Again, few details coming from police, but there are a lot of police, I can tell you right now. There are officers from a number of divisions. We've seen police officers on motorcycle. We've seen the K-9 unit also here as part of this probe. There is the Forensic Identification Services vehicle that's kind of parked underneath the overpass area there as well. We can't access that area. We're being told by police to kind of stay over on this side. Ideally, they're going to be giving us an update at some point. No details have been shared about suspects in this case. Have they found anyone? Who are they looking for at this time? Those are some of the questions that we're looking for answers for at this moment. But Phil, something you did said just about people asking what's happening at this time. I mean, it is a warm night. That is bringing more people out as well. They may have been taking a stroll in this area only to come across a number of police vehicles with flashing lights. That's also leading to a number of road closures in this area. As I mentioned, when we first arrived here, we couldn't get through to the police scene kind of in a direct route, kind of weaving around to get here. It was around 8:37, we understand, is when police were called to this area. 2 reports of this shooting. There may be more than one scene as well, just to give you an idea of just how extensive all of this is. There is police tape just circling this entire block, basically, at this moment. So again, one male has been pronounced dead. 5 others have been hurt. Their injuries being described as non-life-threatening. And that is the latest we have at this moment. Phil, as soon as we learn more, we're going to bring it to you.
Live at the scene right now, 1 man dead, 5 others injured in a shooting near Rainy and Allen Road, just south of Yorkdale Shopping Center, just right at the entrance. You see the police focusing their attention. That's the entrance.
This is just getting out of hand. This is some footage that was on X. It's yet to be confirmed. There is a lot of people who are from the area that have confirmed this already. But this does seem to be from the scene. Taking firearms from legal gun owners is not going to affect this at all. It's actually going to make it worse. If anything, we need to bring back conceal and carry. It's incredibly difficult to have a restricted firearm. I know I've gone through the processes to do it. You are checked all the time. You are ran through the databases. You have to do a full criminal check. You have to do the tests. You have to pass the courses. There's a pile of paperwork involved. You have to be the best of the best of Canadian citizens to be allowed to have a firearm. And they're taking that away, trying to convince people that it's going to curb all of this. And now we can see, like open your eyes for all of those people out there who think that these gun laws are good and they're going to actually do something. They're not going to help in any way. They haven't helped. Gun violence is on the rise. It's the highest it's ever been in Canadian history. This is absolutely insane. And in the meantime, you've got the police in the area. Yes, this is what they do. Everybody now, get together. Everybody now, yeah. This is how they spend their time. In front of an audience full of everybody wearing what you call a cluster F-U-C-K. Yeah, look at them all sitting there wearing all their fancy suits, watching each other. Are you bloody well kidding me? Enough. Can we just get to work? This is so embarrassing. This is why Saskatchewan and Alberta's got to get their own police forces. Got to get serious. This is just embarrassing. And it doesn't help that you've got stuff like this going on in Canada. This is the judicial system. This is such an embarrassment. And again, this is allowing this type of violence to just escalate. So this Ontario judge disqualified a loaded gun as evidence, citing it as anti-black racism. Ontario Supreme Court Justice, and remember her name, people, because this is an idiot. Ontario Supreme Court Justice Renee Manhane disqualified a loaded illegal gun as evidence in a case against a black driver. Who cares what color? Ruling that Peel police engaged in racial profiling. Well, I don't think they were racial profiling if they found a bloody loaded illegal gun. I would say, they did their job. Absolutely embarrassing. God, what's Canada coming to? Moving on. Oh man, it's just, Saskatchewan's just so broken. I can't believe people voted this damn Liberal government back in power again. Okay, Franco, well, let's hear it. A little bit of facts. Sorry, just the facts.
We got some new bureaucracy numbers to break down for you. Here's exactly how much the federal bureaucracy is costing you. So there are now about 358,000 federal government bureaucrats, which means that there are now 99,000 more federal bureaucrats today than there was 10 years ago. Yep, the bloated bureaucracy in Ottawa is ballooning. Now, to be fair, we have seen the government start to trim the bureaucracy. Over the year, there was a very small 2.7% reduction. But folks, The bigger picture is that Ottawa's bureaucracy is too bloated and it's costing you too much. Again, there are 99,000 more federal bureaucrats today that you are paying for than there was 10 years ago. And let's really put these costs into perspective, okay? So the average federal bureaucrat, their total compensation a year is about $125,000. Okay, so if the bureaucracy had just grown in line with population growth over those 10 years, taxpayers like you would be saving about $7 billion a year.
That's with the B.
Now, folks, some departments have been worse than others. So there are 7 federal departments that have more than doubled the number of bureaucrats that they have on staff in the last 10 years. Let's read some of these, okay? Infrastructure Canada, 375% growth. Women and Gender Equality Canada.
Now, we went over a little bit of this yesterday as well. This is just a better video that he put out with the numbers, the actual numbers.
Elections Canada.
With some dollar signs.
173% growth. Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, 158% increase. The Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, 154% increase. And then Impact Assessment Agency of Canada, 127% increase in the number of bureaucrats over the last 10 years. Again, those 7 departments have more than doubled the number of federal bureaucrats over the last 10 years. Now let's look at the 2 departments that have seen the greatest number of increase in bureaucrats. You have Employment and Social Development Canada. Okay, they've added almost 17,000 extra bureaucrats in the last decade. How about the Canada Revenue Agency? Well, the CRA has added 13,000 additional bureaucrats over the last decade. So folks, okay, you are now paying for about 99,000 more federal bureaucrats today than there was a decade ago. But it's not just the size of the bureaucracy that is increasing, so is the cost. The cost of the bureaucracy has exploded 73% since 2016. 73% growth in the cost. Now ask yourself, folks, are you getting 73% better services from the federal government? Well, if you don't work for the government and you're not collecting a taxpayer-funded paycheck, the obvious answer is a big fat no. Okay, so let's look at some of the pay raises. There's been more than 1 million pay raises handed out to federal bureaucrats over the last 4 years, and the federal government has rubber-stamped $1.5 billion in bonuses since 2015.
1.5 billion in bonuses. That's just the bonuses.
Despite the fact that departments can barely meet half of their own performance targets every year. Now, one of the big problems here, folks, is that the new Carney government, Mr. Carney, the Prime Minister, said that he will cap the bureaucracy. Not cut the bureaucracy, cap the bureaucracy. But that just entrenches the Trudeau government's out-of-control, over-expensive bureaucrat hiring spree. Now, what taxpayers need is we need politicians in Ottawa to cut the size and cut the cost of the bloated bureaucracy.
Thank you so much, Franco, for crunching the numbers. So, 2 Canadians are among 7 men arrested in Sydney over a massive illegal tobacco and drugs bust. Now, I've talked about this often on my show. Canada is known around the world as being the epicenter of the global drug trade. Now, this has been an ongoing investigation that they have been doing a lot of tracking in order and setting up. So they've been actually following. They did a bust. It woke them up to what was going on. They started tracing elements, and lo and behold, it goes back to Canada once again. So, a multi-agency task force has uncovered a huge illegal tobacco and drugs ring, seizing millions of cigarettes and more than 300 kilograms of cocaine and liquid meth. For almost 2 years, the law enforcement agencies have been investigating a 42-year-old Sydney man they allege is the ringleader. NSW Police, Australian Federal Police, AFP, Border Force, and other agencies believe the group had been using trusted insiders at ports of entry into Australia to smuggle them. The MAST, or Multi-Agency Strike Team, in July 2024 intercepted 280 kilograms of liquid methamphetamine. Coming from Vancouver, Canada. It is believed the team kept an eye on the shipment, but it did not intervene with the aim to track down the alleged culprits. By August the 4th in 2024, police said they observed 2 men attempting to cool and extract the liquid methamphetamine in Riverstone in Sydney's northwest. A 43-year-old man was arrested later that night at a fast food restaurant in Londonderry, which police say led them to find a sorry guys, blah 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 blah, really tongue twisted up here today. Cookbook. The man was charged with several serious drug importation offenses. The same day, police said they arrested a 31-year-old man and charged him with participating in a criminal group. The 42-year-old, who told police alleged is a ringleader, they also accused him of being behind the 2024 consignment. He was allegedly using freight forwarding company in Punchbowl to import the shipments into the country. The investigation that led to the alleged ringleader, the task force continued to investigate the 42-year-old, who they accuse of continuing to use the freight company to import cigarettes from the United Arab Emirates. Police will engage when they intercepted the shipments. They located 20 million illegal cigarettes. In May this year, police allegedly established the same man was behind a plot to import 50 kilograms of cocaine concealed in cement blocks from Panama. Police will allege in court the ringleader enlisted the help of 2 men who flew in from Canada to retrieve the drugs from the cement blocks and to sell it to organized crime networks in Sydney. The culmination of their investigation came last Friday when they swarmed on a Worthel Park property and arrested a 42-year-old ringleader, the 2 Canadians, and another 42-year-old man. Last Saturday, a 7th person related to the investigation was arrested at Sydney Airport and charged. All 7 men were charged with a raft of serious drug importation, proceeds of crime and criminal group offenses, and appeared in court on Sunday and Monday. They were all refused bail, and they had their cases adjourned to be heard again at the Downing Centre on different dates across June and July. We will allege that 4 men arrested in this matter held trusted positions in logistical and transport companies, both in Australia and overseas, said AFP's Detective Superintendent Peter Fogarty on Tuesday. Superintendent Fogarty noted the illicit tobacco market was quite lucrative. Tobacco excise under scrutiny. Now, this all goes down to that tax thing that I talked about on, I believe it was 3 or 4 episodes ago. The taxes are causing the black market. They're stoking it. They're creating a black market. I mean, if you can get a pack of cigarettes for $2.45 on the black market, and they're the same damn smokes as what you go to the store and it costs you $18 to buy, I think you're going to buy the illegal cigarettes. Hello. So it came as NSW Premier Chris Minns on Monday called for the federal government to reassess the tobacco excise to stop the lucrative black market funding organized crime. Mr. Minns again doubled down on his calls to the federal government during the press conference on Tuesday, telling reporters it was a policy that was just not working. This is another element of federal policy we believe needs to change, said Mr. Minns said. This will be the only tax in the history of the world that has doubled and revenue has declined by 33%. Where is all that money going? It's going into the illegal tobacco sector. I will post the article. You can read it. It's full. It's in depth. It's very, very well written. And it gives the entire argumentative side to the stupidity of the insane taxes that they put on tobacco. But, don't worry, if you're indigenous, you don't have to worry about paying that tax. Oh, right, but because of the Indian Act, some people aren't Indian enough. They're not indigenous enough, even though they theoretically are, but the government has taken that away. Right, okay, colonialism. I mean, at what point are we just going to say, can we be equal? Can we be equal? Can we have a free society? Can we knock off the taxes and all the rest of this crap? This is just insane. It's just insanity. Our world has just gone nuts. We're gonna have a little bit of a recap on Saskatchewan and Alberta wildfires. There's been some serious devastation now that the fires have surpassed in some areas, and it's not looking very good.
We made a trek up to the town site on May 31st. We felt it was important that we were able to get in there to see the extent of the damage. The road going in was quite haunting. As we passed Candle Lake, we saw emergency crews starting to prepare for the fire that had been approaching Candle Lake. Past that, we turned onto Highway 927, the final 27-kilometer stretch into our town site. What we saw was haunting, very devastating. There was areas of scorched forest, areas that were completely burnt down to the ground. The sky was dark with smoke. There were still fires smoldering in the ditches. And it was quite horrific to see when we got into the town site itself. Every structure had burned to the ground. There was a pile of metal and concrete, and there were still hot spots. It was quite. We were very careful because a lot of the septic tanks had burned right down to the ground, and there were holes that we didn't want to fall into. There was obviously we were wearing ventilators where we could, because the smell was quite bad, and the smoke was, as I mentioned, still smoldering and burning across the lake at the time we were there. And there wasn't a single structure standing in the community that we had been going to for 48 years and held a very special place in our heart. It was absolutely devastating. We went around the community and took pictures of everybody's lot, to make sure that they had images, because we didn't think others should be going up there at this time after what we had experienced. We haven't had a response from the government. The community is in grief and uncertain as to what the path to recovery looks like. And so we're really looking to get some support and some answers so we can start moving ahead.
Wow. And on to Manitoba.
The sky smoke-choked and red, an eerie drive down Highway 6.
You could only see past the your hood there, and that was it.
High winds fan the flames. It's impossible for those trying to get through on Highway 373. The access is closed. Drivers were stranded Monday night.
The smoke seemed to be approaching me, and I could see flames in the distance shooting up in the trees.
It's been Leighton Gunther's reality for almost a week as he tries to get goods to Norway House. Instead, he and others resorted to sleeping on the side of the road.
It's best at this state. This looks like the safest place to stay is in Woboden.
Within minutes, it was pitch black, driving through thick smoke with ash-covered windshields. For many, the only option is to head to Thompson, to the evacuation center.
We also have people who are stranded on the highways, and we try to accommodate them, and they show up at the door and have nowhere to go.
Hundreds from all over the province are now making this home. More than 400 were here Monday night alone, tired, scared, and waiting.
Emotional, stressful, because, I don't know, at least we're all safe, that's the only thing that matters.
They left with what they could carry. Now the community is filling the gap.
I'm smiling.
A table of clothing donations, food in nearly every room, and help to keep the kids busy. For Priscilla Marquardt and her 5 kids, leaving Lynn Lake and her husband wasn't easy.
So it was really extreme. We went on a bus out here with all the kids from Lynn Lake, and it was loud, bumpy, the kids were scared.
They've been sleeping on cots and blow-up mattresses for more than a week. Keeping her 1-month-old baby healthy is her biggest concern.
It was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard because you have all the risks of him getting sick, stuff like that. So basically, my main thing was just get him out.
The province says that fire near Lynn Lake has now grown to nearly 70,000 hectares in size. Meantime, the Canadian Armed Forces continues to try to get people out of Pimachikamak First Nation and Cross Lake. Meantime, people here are hoping for more rain and good news from back home. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News.
Come on, rain. We need some rain. And lots of it. Moving on. This is, kind of interesting.
Peel Regional Police making an out-of-province arrest in connection with the murder of a Mississauga businessman.
Investigators from the Homicide Bureau have arrested 2 men for first-degree murder in connection to a recent shooting that claimed the life of 51-year-old Harjeet Dada from Brampton. We were able to track, locate, and arrest 2 21-year-old men from Delta, BC, Aman and Dijvijay. The accused appeared before a justice in Surrey, BC, and were then handed over to homicide detectives to be transported to Ontario with the help of the BC Sheriff's Service.
Dada was shot outside of his insurance business near Derry and Bramley Roads on May 14th. He died in hospital. Dada's family says he refused to pay $500,000 in an extortion attempt in the days leading up to his death. A black Dodge Challenger believed to be stolen was found in the days following the murder. Both of the accused are now back in Ontario and facing first-degree murder charges.
Unbelievable. Now, these two have been linked to be part of a gang called the Bishnoi Gang. The Bishnoi Gang is a gang from India and has ties to the Khalistanis. Now, there are some opposing factors. There are some factors that work together. It's kind of a little bit of a mishmash of extremism. So, Canadian police sources say that the Bishnoi Gang is one of a number of criminal enterprises from the Punjab and Haryana states in northern India that have spread into North America in recent years, even as its founder, Lawrence Bishnoi, has languished in Indian prisons since 2014. So the crazy part is that this is all unvetted immigration. These people are known to have records. They are within the Indian database, and our country doesn't give a rat's behind. They don't care. Fear, hate, division, and chaos. This is what they're doing. These are the people who will never have a gun license and yet are the ones shooting up the streets and removing people's lives. These are the people we need to go after, but yet the media, propaganda, convinced enough Canadians that the Liberal Party was doing, I guess, an okay job because they re-elected him. The definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And usually this only happens when you have state media, propaganda. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And get the truth out. I'm sure if more people were aware, in fact, I know if more people were aware, they sure in hell would not have voted Liberal. Moving on. This is Brett Oland. He is a banker, investment guy, brilliant man. And he breaks down the idea of green bonds and the industrial carbon tax. This is all part of the APP and the Saskatchewan independence. Now, listen carefully to what he's saying. This is another this is just more proof, more reasoning, and a great example of why the West has got to save Canada and get out. They got to save what's left of who we are before we're flooded right out and taxed beyond ever coming back. And they're going to start trying to make laws to stop us from ever being able to leave Canada. And then we're doomed. And we're going to end up with like a lot of my friends and some of my family who fled to the States in the last 8 years and are laughing at us up here because they say life is so good down there. So anyways, let's just take a listen to what he has to say.
So a third piece of financial fudgery is very prevalent in Alberta and exactly what Kurt was talking about, where they specifically seem to be targeting Alberta's resources. It's a concept called green and blue bonds, green or blue bonds. And so what they do is somewhere in the back room, they say, hey, we want to sell these bonds. And there's someone out there that says, yeah, we'll buy those bonds, but we need collateral to be able to do that. And so somebody pledges something of value to these bondholders that they actually have, and they don't actually need the government's authority to be able to do something like this. And so, do you happen to know a province that is extremely resource rich that might have a ton of collateral that somebody might use to leverage against? Can't think of one? Okay. Well, this concept of green and blue bonds, it was first come about where they did it on a smaller scale, where a big oil company like Suncor would basically say, hey, we need a loan to build this refinery or whatever it is, and then they'd go to the bank and say, hey, we want to build this refinery. The bank would say, hey, as long as you pledge some assets, then we can be able to do that. Suncor goes, I don't have any assets right now. Can we pledge the reserves that are actually in the ground? And so that didn't start all that long ago. Maybe it was 20 years ago they actually were able to allocate these reserves as actual capital. And so some government agency got the great idea that, hey, why don't we pledge these assets, say something like $20 trillion worth of oil sands reserve, and we can sell these bonds, and as long as we pay the interest on these bonds, then there's not going to be a problem. So enter somebody like Mark Carney that would understand something like this with green and blue bonds, and you, as mentioned, you have to be able to pay the interest on the debt, and you need a mechanism to basically pay for that. And wouldn't you know it, something like the carbon tax enters. Well, a lot of people called foul on the actual individual personal carbon tax, but there's very willing industry out there that's willing to pay for these carbon taxes. So not only do you have these pledged assets now, but you also have a mechanism to pay for them with the industrial carbon tax that it seems that the oil companies are all too willing to pay. And you get a government in place that's willing to go out on a limb to basically sell these bonds. And you've effectively sold out your country when you do something like that.
Now, he's correct, and of course he's correct. I shouldn't try to correct him because he is correct. Brett Olin's brilliant. In other words, it's very easy for the companies to want to be part of this because they know that the carbon tax that they're using to pay for the interest on fictitious reserves or resources in order to be guaranteed loans is all paid for by you and I. So they understand the way the scheme works. This is actually a great idea. It's a great incentive to get these billion-dollar companies to go, hey, I see what you're doing. Okay. So it's really not going to do anything for the planet, but it can help us to secure loans if we put a little bit of money in your pocket and we put a little bit of money in your pocket and we get all that money from everybody else's pockets. You understand how it works? That's why you'll hear a lot of people refer to it as a social style conscript. It is a socialist type of an idea because that's where the idea first came from. It's a way to kind of just keep the pressure on the people and to control the amount of wealth a nation has. That's socialism. They're eliminating the free market. They're stopping other individuals from ever being able to get ahead enough to become competitive, which separates the gap of rich and poor even more. And what have we seen in the last decade? The largest separation of wealth in our history. This is how it works. It's a scam. Paying the carbon tax ain't gonna make the weather gooder, people. The weather ain't gonna be gooder if you pay some cash. It's not how it works. It's a farce. It's a scam. And he's speaking in Saskatchewan at an independence rally. I really like this guy. I've been following him for years. He's brilliant. Now, I had mentioned on an earlier episode, previous episode, about how China is hiding steel, funneling it through Canada, as well as a few other countries. And this is the major reason, a major reason, on why Trump is, well, nailing our ass to the wall. Because he knows it. And he also wants to secure and bring back business, which he's doing at like what he's done to the States. My Lord, he literally has created the golden age in the States. Don't let the media lie to you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe because people need to see what I show all the time. Sorry, just the facts. Sorry. Now, I couldn't believe it when CBC had on this union president. And he actually mentioned this. Let's take a listen.
Okay, let's talk about the impact these tariffs could have on the steel industry. And for that, we're joined by William Slater. He is the president of United Steelworkers, Local 2724. It's a union representing steelworkers at Algoma Steel, joining us from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. It's great to speak with you, William, because I understand you've been a worker at Algoma Steel since 2007. What are your thoughts about this tariff hike?
Depending on how our Canadian government reacts to it, it's going to destroy us.
Wow, that is a big statement. You've already been dealing with the current tariffs in place on your industry. What's the impact been there?
So we've had temporary layoffs. Earlier this spring. Now we've got people that are on notice of permanent layoffs, and that's under the 25% tariff. So it's where everybody's afraid to see what the 50% tariff will do to our industry and to our place that we all work.
You talk to me about that fear that you're hearing from your colleagues. What are people saying, and what are they thinking right now?
Well, we have, especially with the young people, that we have a lot of young people that work at Algoma Steel. They've started their lives with mortgages and car payments, and now they're the first people that get affected by layoffs. So they're, feared for their future.
And they're all up in Sault Ste. Marie. How big of an employer is Algoma Steel in Sault Ste. Marie?
It's the biggest industry in Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So are they talking about, what other opportunities for employment are there if the worst, as you're describing it, does come to be?
Unfortunately, we have a lot of construction in town because of the EAF furnace that the steel plant was transitioning to. Once that ends, it's going to be very hard to find a job within Sault Ste. Marie. So people will have to start looking outside of the city.
I'm trying to imagine what it must be like to be, up north in Ontario, a job that you think is a steady source of employment, and then I'm just watching how, basically the wind blows from the United States and how things must or are likely to change.
And now you got to remember, this is typical idiotic CBC. When they say Sault Ste. Marie and they say Northern Ontario, it's not Northern. It's not Northern Ontario. These people have no idea of they believe that little wee nipple that they live in, that controls the entire elections that we have, is the line of Canada. It's not. It's not. Toronto and them, they live on a little wee dip that goes down, and other than that, everybody else is north. So theoretically, everybody in Canada is Northern Canada. Get real. It just goes to show, it's just the little things that, like, when you hear those things, you realize these hosts have no idea what they're talking about. They're reading talking points scripted to them. We have reporters, not journalists. They're right on the frickin' border. Get it together, people. Frustrating.
For you and your colleagues, it's got to be frustrating.
It is. Hopefully the Canadian government can step in to at least stabilize the market within Canada. I think at this point in time, that's about all we can ask for, because I don't think anybody can predict what things are going to happen south of the border.
Yeah, so let's expand on that, because right off the top you said depending on how the Canadian government responds, it would be devastating. What do you mean? How is it you would like the federal government to respond?
There's been a process that has, for steel being dumped in Canada, that either the unions or the companies could put cases through and show how it was damaging our jobs or the companies. And so that's a big, long, slow process to go through. We need the government to start quickly reacting to all the steel that's coming into Canada, because it is harder for steel to go into the U.S. The next place is send it into Canada, and that is affecting our steel prices greatly in Canada.
So yeah, flooding the market, I suppose, with product that you are yourself producing, and that's becoming a problem. Am I understanding that right?
Yes.
Yeah. William Slater, the president of United Steelworkers Local 2724. I don't envy you in the position you're in right now, but best of luck to you and your colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, it's too bad that she didn't actually have the brain works to, dig deeper into it. And he seemed knowledgeable, but he didn't seem, I don't know, he didn't seem like he was, a worthy enough candidate in order to really be talking. Now, I don't mean to insult the guy. He did great, because at least he brought that to attention. But I wish he would have thrown out a few more numbers, and especially being in that field. We are flooded with import steel, brought in through different countries that just change the stamp. It's Chinese steel. It's cheap Chinese steel. This is what we have to get on. We need to produce our own materials. There's only one real thing in Canada. Actually, I shouldn't say that. There's two. Wood and our resources, oil and gas. Other than that, everything else has been infiltrated. And really, even the oil and gas, we just for generations have convinced the East has convinced themselves that blood oil somehow is good. It's good to support dictatorships instead of the West. This is the idiocracy that we live with. We haven't been Canadian since the first Trudeau. He's an oil conglomerate. His family's oil money. It just so happens that he was an idiot and didn't get a piece of the pie and ruined it, and then out of jealousy and animosity for the West and his socialist ideology, decided to try to be a fascist and nationalize oil, all to the detriment of the West and the benefit of the East. And this is the steel thing. This is going to look what's going on. They're saying there's like close to 10,000 jobs in all not just the manufacturing, but all the relative industries from that. That's a pretty large chunk of people. And it's not just in Sioux. It's in a lot of different cities. And metal plays a huge role in our lives. It's in everything. Hello? The East voted the Liberals once again. Duh. Completely infiltrated by the CCP, proven time and time again, as well as the Palestinians, as well as Iran, as well as Palestine, and the East reelected him, and you wonder why the West wants out. Like, we don't believe in blood oil. We don't believe in buying anything from socialist and dictatorship run countries. We don't believe in any countries that do nasty things to its people, that we should be supporting them in any which way, especially since we have more resources than any other country in the world next to Russia. I mean, elbows up, everybody. Elbows up. Now, this is kind of interesting. Rebel did a little searchy poo, and the government is already hiding documents.
The Liberal government claims there are no records related to the nearly $9 million in funding it disbursed to the cricket farming Aspire Food Group. Let me say that again, because it's the kind of thing that deserves to be screamed into a Freedom of Information shredder. The federal government gave this cricket protein company millions of your tax dollars and now claims there's just no paper trail. Except we've got a few of the receipts. Aspire Food Group was handed $8.5 million in taxpayer cash in 2020 from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. That's a problem right out of the gate because the program they tapped into has a clear $5 million cap. So what happened? Did they rewrite the rules for the bugs? And if there was a rewrite, where's the paper trail? Then in 2023, Aspire got another $501,302 from the National Research Council through a separate program. Then just 2 months later, the feds quietly amended the $8.5 million deal, extending the project's deadline and pushing repayments back by a year. Now, you don't delay repayment unless someone's having trouble paying. So what kind of backroom bailout was this? And again, where's the paper trail? Because Aspire went into receivership. That's right, the cricket protein darling of the Trudeau and now the Carney Liberals, the single largest food-grade cricket plant on the planet, flatlined, dead on arrival. And now it's being picked apart in bankruptcy court. Now let's talk about that plant for a second. It was located in London, Ontario on a street called Innovation Drive because satire is dead. The Aspire facility was billed as the future of food. It was designed to produce over 13 million kilograms of crickets per year, fully automated, AI-powered, vertical farming, apparently a sterile, climate-controlled utopia for mass-reared bugs designed to be ground into protein powder for pet food, animal feed, fertilizer, and yes, one day, human consumption. This wasn't farming, it was a robotic insect warehouse designed by Davos nerds who think carbon is scarier than hunger. It was sold as a climate savior because crickets use less land, less water, produce less methane. They were going to feed the world, these crickets. Trudeau's cabinet couldn't throw taxpayer money at it fast enough. But the whole thing collapsed. The London Free Press reports that Aspire couldn't keep up with construction costs or debt obligations. They couldn't raise more capital. The fake food market tanked, and now they're all but insolvent. Even London city councillors are demanding answers, asking how to protect public funds from getting swallowed into this cricket crater. Meanwhile, Aspire's Texas facility still operating. So Canadian tax dollars may have just subsidized the US bug business. And here's the part that should make your blood boil. When a request was filed for records on Aspire's funding, the government's official response was, no records exist. No records. None. Not a single memo, a payment schedule. We know it was revised. A contract for a company that got $9 million in federal support. I guess it just doesn't exist. Now that's not transparency. That's a cover-up. But this goes deeper than one company's failure. Aspire was a symbol, a test case, a prototype for the World Economic Forum's dietary reset. You will eat the bugs, you'll own nothing, you'll be happy, you'll be cold, broke, and scared of steak. They want you weak, malnourished, and terrified of how your burger interacts with the weather. So you're guilt-tripped into eating like some sort of horrified iguana, and they're pumping your tax dollars into making that nightmare real. Need proof? Here's a Facebook video of These Mark Carney-aligned World Economic Forum mouthpieces singing the praises of cricket protein like it's the Eucharist of the ESG religion.
Now, I'm sure you all remember this. This went on and on. This is when they were pushing the Beyond Meat and all the rest of that. It was a huge money laundering scam. It was huge corporations trying to take out small farmers and small business. And thank God people didn't fall for it. But don't worry, Carney's back in, and now we're not dealing with Governor Turd, the private. We have the general. The General Carney of the circus is in power now. I'm so embarrassed to be a Canadian. I really am, that we got this Liberal government still in power. It's just... it's so depressing. Absolutely depressing to think that people voted for them. And like I said, I don't blame all of them. I blame propaganda for a large portion of it. But that those card holders who would vote for a man with a little mustache raising his hand at 45 degrees as long as he was a liberal, those are the true enemies to democracy. It's a sad, sad, sad country that we are in today. And it's amazing that it only took 10 years to get us here. And God knows how long this Liberal Party is going to stay in power for. Anyways, you guys, I'm going to call that an episode. I hope I got you all up to date and informed on everything from coast to coast. Until the next time, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you are, make sure you punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Until the next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Stay informed.